Hi, I'm Mrs. Mason. Welcome to day 9 of growing alligators. So today we're going to find out if our gators have gotten as big as they're going to get. They've been soaking for 3 days. This, for me, is the Tuesday after Labor Day. So they've been soaking day 6, day 7, and day 8. They've been soaking for 3 days. So today we're going to talk about how do we know if the gators have gotten as big as they're going to get. And the answer to that is our measurements. Our measurements are going to be the same for a couple of days. If the gator is not getting any longer, and if it's not getting any heavier, its mass is not getting any bigger, then we'll know that our gators are not growing anymore. And then our next step for growing alligators is to start measuring how long it'll take for them to shrink and to see if they'll get back to their original size. So after 9 days, this is what our gators look like. Go ahead and get out your science notebook and write the date at the top, and you can make some observations. Here's our gator soaking in salt water, and today I noticed that the gator in the 90 grams of salt is actually sinking to the bottom. And here's our other clear liquids, vinegar and hydrogen peroxide, along with our control gator. Here is another fun observation. If you can see while I zoom in, the gator that was in the 90 grams of salt has little salt crystals that were clinging to the outside of it. So before I measure the mass, I'm going to have to scrape all of those off so that the mass is going to be just the water and it's not measuring any of the salt crystals that have grown on the outside of our gator. So after 9 days of soaking in the water, you can see for the 3rd grade gators that the measurements have stayed pretty close to the same. The gator that's in the tap water is still 7.9 centimeters and 4.8 grams. The gator in this distilled water has not gotten any longer. It is still 9.6 centimeters, but it did gain just 0.2 of a gram. So I'm going to put them back into the water and we're going to find out if they are going to continue to grow, or maybe tomorrow if they start to level out and they aren't growing anymore. For our saltwater gators, you can see on day 9 that they have gotten slightly bigger. The gator in the 45 grams of salt water is 6.7 centimeters and 3.2 grams. And the gator in the 90 grams of salt water is 6.6 centimeters and 2.9 grams. I also want you to note in your observations that the gator in the 90 grams of salt water, after I got the salt off of it and put it back into the water, I had to rinse it and dry it and then put it back into the water, it did start to float again. So I'm thinking that the salt crystals that were growing on the outside of the gator must have been what was causing it to sink. And for our 5th grade gators, these are the results. They have gotten slightly bigger, the one in the hydrogen peroxide. So on day 9, the gator in the tap water is still 4.8 grams. The gator in the hydrogen peroxide is 11.9 grams. The one in the vinegar is staying the same. It's 3.4 grams, and of course the control hasn't changed. As for length, only the one in the hydrogen peroxide is changing. So on day 9, the tap water is still 7.9 centimeters. The hydrogen peroxide went up to 10.5 centimeters. The gator in the vinegar is at 7.2 centimeters, and the control, of course, is staying the same. So we can tell by the data that some of the gators have stopped growing, but others are continuing to increase in the mass or the length. So it's not time to take them out of the water just quite yet. We'll give them a couple of more days. Go ahead and in your notebook, start to write about the conclusions that you're seeing. Looking at your data, is it easy for you to tell which gator is starting to grow the most? Can you tell if it's the distilled water that's making the change? Is it the amount of salt that is affecting the gator? Or is it a certain type of liquid that's helping the gator to get bigger? Now is the time to start writing up some of your conclusions. Post them in the comments below. I'd like to see what you think.